Hello and welcome back to another episode of the 2020 podcast, Canada's #1 optometry podcast. I am your host, Dr. Harbir Sayan. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me here to learn and to grow. As always, so grateful for all the time that you take, all the liking and the sharing and everything that you do that's helped the podcast grow. And as always, I will ask a quick favor off the top. If you do get some value from this episode, please tell somebody about it. Send a link to your friend, text message, LinkedIn, put something up on Instagram. Let people know, because this is a really important conversation. There's some pretty groundbreaking stuff we're going to talk about. Before we get into that, if you're watching on YouTube, you're going to see that we are live in person. We're at the BC Doctors of Optometry annual conference in downtown Vancouver. It's one of my favorite places to be every year, and it's because I get to be around amazing people like this. Okay, we are going to talk about an amazing treatment called MacuMira. And first, before we get into that, I want to introduce my three guests that I have here. First of all, Justin Sather, who is the CEO and founder of MacuMira. Next to him, Dr. Trevor Miranda, serial 2020 podcast guest, owner of partner in 5 clinics on Vancouver Island, of course, early adopter and expert in many ways. He's going to talk to us about his clinical experience with MacuMira. And to the far left, we have the one and only Doctor, I'll call you Doctor, Mr.
As long as you call me.
Honorary Dr. Ravi Tanna, who is the VP of Sales for MacuMira, but he has over 20 years of experience in the eye care industry, working for companies like J&J, Alcom, B&L. So he's bringing a lot of insight and a lot of experience to this conversation. So thank you guys for being here. I'm excited to have this conversation. I'm excited to tell people about MacuMira. Really kind of blew me away when I started learning about this technology. Why don't we start with you, Justin? Tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about MacuMira, just to kind of introduce the audience.
Sure. I'm the founder of MacuMira. I'm the current CEO. We started about 7 years ago. Very small company back then. It's taken us a long time to get here. Clinical trials, improving the technology, improving the company. We were approved by Health Canada in November of last year, and since then we've been fine-tuning our product and getting it ready for market. We've worked with several doctors in Canada now that currently have it. We have about 20 to 25 devices in the field right now in Canada, with doctors like Trevor Miranda currently using it, and they're getting similar results that we had in the clinical trial, and it's been going very well. And at this event here, we're kind of kicking it off, the official commercialization and launch of our product in Canada. So awesome. We're very excited to be here, and we're happy to be helping Canadians that have dry AMD improve their vision.
Absolutely. That's actually something I didn't say off the top. We should tell people what MacuMira is and why it's so groundbreaking. It is the first clinically approved treatment in North America for dry AMD. So MacuMira is the first clinically approved treatment for dry AMD in North America. It's very exciting because how else do we treat dry AMD otherwise? Take some supplements, wear sunglasses. Like, this is the first thing that's actually actively helping people see better, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about that. Before we get to Trev, because we're going to talk about clinical stuff, I want to talk to you, Ravi, because you've been in the industry for over 20 years. And like you said, companies like B&L, J&J, this is a big jump. Now you're with a totally different company in a totally different sphere within eye care. What brought you to MacuMira?
Yeah, great question. So first of all, I love the optometry space. So it is my favorite place to be. I keep coming back to it time and time again in my career. I think it's just, you guys do a great job with patient care, but also running a practice and running a business. And so, I had a pretty comfortable career in contact lenses. I love that space. I've been aware for a long time, but my dad had macular degeneration the last 5 years of his life. And I saw him really struggle. And so I drove him to all of his ophthalmology appointments. And I remember the first time, we were in Calgary, and we're in the ophthalmology clinic, and I asked the ophthalmologist, hey, I work in eye care, can I come in and just watch the procedure? And he's like, yeah, no problem. And he said, I have to warn you, it's a bit intense. I'm like, no problem, I got this. So I sat there probably like this distance away from my dad, and I saw the needle go into his eye for the first time. And it was cold sweats. I grabbed the table, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna do this for the rest of your life every 6 weeks. So it was really impactful for me.
Yeah.
And my dad was a physician his whole life. And so now he was the patient. And, it was really, really tough for him. So he...
You have a little piece of memorabilia. I want you to share that if you don't mind.
I do.
Before we go in.
So my dad was an avid photographer. He'd done that since his 20s. And this is actually the first camera he ever bought, the first real camera. So he was 27 years old. He bought it in 1966 in Germany.
Wow.
And I found this a couple years ago in his garage after he had passed away.
Wow.
And so what his plan was, when he retired, was to do photography, like take 1,000 pictures a day. But because he was really struggling with his vision and he lost his central vision, which is so critical for photography, he couldn't do that. So AMD really robbed him of that. And so I felt like, the universe was kind of calling me when Justin and I spoke. And there was, just a way that, through our friends in optometry, we could help ODs intervene much earlier in the disease state and change people's trajectory, right? And I wish my dad had this and he didn't. So this is a really important piece for me. Thanks for asking me that question.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's a very powerful story. It's poignant, obviously sad, but important to know that now we can help people in this position to see better and live better lives. Let's talk a little bit about the clinical trials. So I don't know whoever wants to take this one, but there were clinical trials that showed how well MacuMira works. I'd love to kind of share with the audience, what were they testing, what improved, over what period of time? Whoever wants to, go ahead.
In the clinical trial, there was the main outcome we were testing for was visual acuity. And in the trial, in our treatment group, patients improved by an average of, I think it was it 8.9 letters or
average was
8.8
letters.
average of 8.8 letters. Yeah, we all read the trial. Why am I holding the mic?
I did my homework.
So patients improved by an average of 8.8 letters in visual acuity, which is quite phenomenal with this disease and somewhat unheard of, I would say.
Yeah.
That was in the treatment group. In the protocol group. Placebo group. Patients, their vision decreased by an average of 2 letters. So this was over a 6-month trial, 6-month period. So patients would come in.
So really, that's like a 10.8 letter difference, right? If you look at it that way,
it's huge.
The placebo group lost 2 letters. The treatment group got 8.8 letters. That's really that's a huge difference.
It's a massive difference. So how the treatment works: patients come in, they receive 4 treatments in the first 10 days. Treatments are 32 minutes long. They're non-invasive. Obviously they're mostly seniors we're treating. A lot of them fall asleep during treatment, so it's a non-invasive, painless treatment. We can get into it a little bit later on and show you through the device here. And the outcomes were phenomenal. So they get 4 treatments in 10 days, and then they get 1 treatment every 3 months.
Amazing.
And the results were phenomenal. And then we applied to Health Canada, and we were granted approval. So as you mentioned, we're the first company in Canada to offer a treatment for dry age-related macular degeneration.
Amazing. Dr. Trevor Miranda, I know you are excited to talk about the nerdy stuff behind the scenes here. How does this work, MacuMira? What's actually happening with the device? We'll look at the device in a moment, but let's talk a little bit about the science. Like, what's going on in the eyeball that's making this work and giving people this improved visual acuity?
Yeah, the theory of the mechanism of action here is working on the mitochondria. As we know, that's the energy powerhouses of the cells, and sort of turning them on and rejuvenating them. I actually like to wrap all this AMD treatment into what I call retinal rejuvenation. So we're kind of taking the mitochondria, the devitalized cells that have been traumatized over time with age,
Right.
So instead, just before they're dying, can we bring them back to functioning better? And that's what's pulling the visual acuity to be better.
Right.
MacuMira is indicated to improve visual function in patients with dry AMD. And I think that's a key point for practitioners that are listening out there. That's what it does. It helps your patient see better. Okay? So functionally, we're improving their ability to see, which is super powerful. Structurally, what is happening exactly, we're trying to understand better.
Got it.
What is happening on the structure side. But to me, this is my personal view, it's working on the mitochondrial ATP production, rejuvenating devitalized mitochondrial organelles within cells, within the photoreceptors, helping you see better.
And that's what people come to us for, generally speaking, is to see better. And it's nice that we have, there's a treatment now that will give people that, I won't say immediate, but that noticeable difference in their vision. Because a lot of times there's different treatments we may offer or supplements they'll take. they don't notice their vision getting better. We're just sort of stabilizing or, you know, making sure they don't get any worse. This is actually giving people that difference in their vision. So that's for me as a practitioner, will give me confidence that I'd want to give this treatment to a patient, because I know I'll get the feedback from the patient. I'll get that, you know, the result that we want to see.
I think I put it this way: we're helping instead of hoping. We're helping people see better, and that's what glasses do, and that's what we're used to doing. Right. In macular degeneration patients, we're typically hoping they don't get worse.
Yeah.
It's a pretty amazing switch for me and my patients. And when you say, is it immediate? It is almost immediate. Within that loading phase, they're going to notice improvements, and it'll start to ramp up. We'll get them to a plateau, but the patients that I've treated, they all book back in 3 months for their repeat treatments, because they've really realized it's improved their vision. And we measure it, of course. We can say, hey, this is what you were seeing and this is what you are seeing.
Right, of course.
But they report subjectively improved vision.
Which I think is maybe the more important thing, right? It's
Right.
one thing to look at black letters on a white chart and say, yeah, you can read more, but what is it like in the real world is what it comes down to.
And exactly, in the study, as per Justin's point, contrast sensitivity actually improved to a large degree, on par with that large visual acuity differential. And as you know, Dr. Cian, contrast sensitivity is a big indicator of visual function.
Right.
And you know, that's a key piece here. Health Canada indicated for improved visual function, not just acuity, but visual function, which includes things like contrast sensitivity. So my patients are reporting, you know, things seem brighter,
Right.
things seem better, less after images, that type of thing.
Yeah, and that's the quality of their vision, not just the quantity of the letters. I think that's so important.
Yes.
So, okay, so we understand it's the effect is happening to the mitochondria in the retina, in the photoreceptors. It's rejuvenating them a little bit, giving us better contrast sensitivity, able to read more letters. Can we look at the device? Let's see what it looks like. How do we put it on? And then what's the patient experience with the device when they have it on? So let's get that set up.
All right. I guess I'm the guinea pig.
So
I'm the
if you're only listening on the podcast, I get it. If you're driving or something, you know, keep driving. Don't open YouTube right now. But at some point, go to YouTube, open this up, because I want you to see this device. It basically looks like a BIO headset, right? And Ravi here is modeling for us, and we'll get some close-up shots of this at some point too. But right now, Ravi's putting it on, showing us how it looks. And there's a little metal. I assume they're metal. What would you call those? Little eye cups that sit on the outside of the eyelid, right? So Ravi, tell us a little bit more about what it feels like and what's going on.
Okay, great. Well, I don't know where you are because my eyes are closed.
Eyes
I
are
can't
closed.
see
There
you.
you go.
You're good.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Trevor.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
I got this.
Yeah, so it's great. So what we'll do is our team will go in and train the staff in a clinic to, first of all, just position the device. So put the headset on, position the front microcurrent piece, get the eye cups in place. There'll be gel on the patient's eyes. We're not going to put gel on today, although you guys might surprise me because my eyes are closed. And then the microcurrent transmits through the eye cups, as Trevor described, and helps enhance that mitochondrial function in those cells. This headset is hooked up to a tablet, which will basically guide the staff through the treatment process over 32 minutes. So it's really, especially if staff is already adept at doing IPL, other dry eye treatments, it's a very quick learning curve for them. If they're not currently doing that, we will train them. We'll be shoulder to shoulder with them, basically get them confident with the procedure so that after we leave, the staff will be able to do procedure 2, 3, and 4 in that first 10-day loading
You
phase.
could probably take that
Okay.
off your. I feel like I appreciate
he
you
likes
doing
it.
that whole
He's taking
segment.
a nap.
Yeah, he's talking in his sleep.
Yeah.
Appreciate you doing that whole segment with the eye cups on,
Yeah.
clearly showing us that they're not that uncomfortable. But tell us then, what is the patient feeling when they have the device on and things are running?
Okay, great. Do you want to address this?
Yeah, you know, the patient's relaxed. The technician's there with them. So it's not just hook it up and leave. They're there, they're walking them through it, they're having a little chat. I think that relationship that our retinal technician builds with the patient's important too, because, you know, just holding their hand through the process, helping them realize we check acuities every time too, just to let the patient know you're improving. You know, reassuring them that this is a safe treatment and that they're improving and showing them the differential.
That's great. So tech is sitting next to them. They're just chatting, most likely. do some people fall asleep? Is that a thing? Is that okay?
We don't want them to fall asleep so it falls off.
Oh,
okay,
right.
so it depends how you're seated
Sure.
as well. So you just want to make sure that they're feeling comfortable, check in with them. Often our technician will also do some other admin work on a computer besides. So we're trying to be efficient with our
Efficient. Fair enough.
practice as
Fair
well.
enough.
But yeah, it's totally, you can multitask there.
Sounds good. And how about the patient's eye position with their eyes closed? Does it matter if their eyes are rolling or moving around or anything like that? Or I assume they're most likely just going to have them looking straight ahead. Okay, so that's not something that you have to necessarily like remind them. Make sure your eyes are straight ahead or you're not looking around. Okay, great. So then, Trev, let's talk a little bit more about, so you started telling us a little bit what it looks like in your office. You got the technician there. They're maybe doing a little bit of work while they're chatting with the patient in that 32 minutes. How would somebody who is bringing this into their practice, what would be the kind of the process to implement? I know Ravi talked a little bit about you're there for training, but more like the protocols within the office. Let's say you have an AMD patient you've diagnosed in your chair. What's the next step for that person?
Yeah, it's perfect. I mean, the question is, where to treat along the pathway of AMD. So as you know, early AMD, a lot of times the patient didn't realize it till we showed them the scans, showed the drusen and the damage, their vision was okay. So the indication is to improve vision. But I believe the future will be we'll treat more upstream. We'll slow it down and we'll prove over time, it's not been proven yet, structural improvement. So actually in some cases that I have of my patients, I can show improved acuity and improved OCT scans. So structural improvement, functional improvement, and structural improvement.
Right.
It's pretty exciting. We've started a community for practitioners that are interested called myretina.ca. These are for ophthalmologists and optometrists that want to learn and share cases and discuss it. So that case is up there,
Love that.
which is great.
So that I feel like you're making a pretty strong, or beginning to make a strong case for the upstream use of this. Now, I know this is not what it's indicated for. We don't want to get too far down that path, but
That's right.
that's beginning to make a case there where you could use this as a what's the right word I'm looking here? Almost prophylactic, or like in advance, knowing that this patient is predisposed or perhaps in the early stages of AMD.
Can we slow down macular degeneration progression? Can we push it out 10, 15, 20 years and then reduce, what happened to Ravi's dad, where you go blind in your retirement years? Could we do that? I believe, yes, that is going to happen. I believe that. The science to prove that, the studies will come over time.
Right.
We're going to be utilizing things like AI to review scanning technology to look at, what are the indicators and how are these patients improving? So there's some exciting things coming.
Very exciting.
But my personal opinion is when you have a patient, to answer your previous question, we have a patient with AMD, you got to let them know what the risks are and what the options are and let them decide. Shame on us if we don't expose them to what's possible.
Absolutely.
Right? What is possible is treating them with MacuMira, retina rejuvenation, nutraceuticals, whatever, that encompasses sunglasses, doing everything you can to help preserve their vision so their vision can outlive them.
Absolutely. Love that.
That was nice.
Your vision outlives you
Vision
versus the other way.
outlives
That's
you. That was very nice.
powerful statement there from Dr. Trevor Miranda. I love it. So tell me now, the question was, we have the patient in the chair.
Yeah.
And we've decided that they could benefit from MacuMira. What's the next step there? Now, you're going to the front desk, the staff is booking them, you have a separate room where this sits. Like, what would I need in my office to make sure that I can adopt this?
Yeah. So just like dry eye, it's the same sort of thing. You've diagnosed dry eye, you've diagnosed AMD. Now you've made recommendations. You've recommended, retina rejuvenation with MacuMira. There's a fee associated. There's a discussion on how that takes place. The doctors made the recommendations. I leave it like that. My technician team will follow up either in real time or a little bit later if we need to discuss what that looks like. 4 sessions, 32 minutes within 10 days. This is the fee, okay? And then you're going to be treated every 2 to 3 months ongoing to maintain that visual functional improvement.
Right.
So they need to know what they're entering. And some patients will say, no, I'm feeling okay right now, but it's good to know. Or some patients will be like, yes, I have 20/25 vision and I want to be better. And we treat those, and there's some of my best patients, they just keep booking back.
Yeah.
So they're down to 20/20 minus from 20/25 minus, and they love it.
Right.
I have patients that I've treated that are 2100 that went to 2080 and love it because they recognize an improved vision.
Right.
And so now you got to, they can adapt over time. They're like, now this is my new normal. And they don't notice any improvements, but then you have to educate the patient. You still need to maintain those treatments
Right.
in order to keep that plateau part. So it's part of the education. I think practitioners are going to have to wrap their mind around how they're managing these patients. There's a certain amount of cells that are damaged and they're gone.
Yeah.
Can we revitalize and save or slow down the devitalization and atrophy of the cells that exist?
Right. So there's a lot of education that's going to need to go. So somebody like myself bringing this into my practice will have to develop that, the talking points and the protocols and everything. Who's going to follow up with the patient? What are they going to say to the patient? What are the fees and all of this kind of thing, of course. But that goes with any, like you said, any specialty that you're bringing in, you have to kind of set those protocols ahead of time. But other than that, it seems like it's
I'll touch
pretty
on the
easy.
on the
Yeah.
training real quick if you don't mind. So on the training, typically, what we like to do is, we'll call ahead and say, okay, we're coming in, or is next Wednesday or the 23rd or whatever that date may be, and we'll say book in 2 or 3 dry age-related macular degeneration patients, and we'll treat them while we're there. And we'll train the staff. So Ravi or myself will come in, or one of our other sales team will come in, and we come in and we'll treat the first patient that's in your office. We'll treat them, your tech or yourself or the doctor there will watch, and we'll explain the device, go over everything, and they'll watch as we basically treat the first patient. And then the next patient that comes in, the tech or yourself, the doctor, will treat that next patient, and we'll kind of oversee and watch and advise on it. And the same thing will happen with a third patient. And then typically by then we're done and your staff is fully trained.
Got it.
So it really only takes, what did we take? 3 hours to train your staff? I mean, I don't think it was more than that. 3 or 4 hours to train a staff, and then it's very easy to operate and very user friendly. So the training goes by pretty quickly.
Awesome. So what is like next? You got the Health Canada approval. We've got a few early adopter doctors who have it already. You got your official launch now. What's next? What's the big plan? What do we want to see from MacuMira in the next 12 months, 18 months?
Yeah, I mean, we're hopefully going to expand pretty swiftly in Canada. Like I said, we've got about 25 devices currently in the market now with doctors like Trevor Miranda using it. Hopefully by the end of this year, we've got 200 or 300 ODs using our device. We were just approved in New Zealand. We should be approved in Australia relatively soon.
Awesome.
Hopefully we'll expand to Europe and the United States and Asia as well. That's a bit of a long road, but that's somewhere we'd definitely like to be in the relatively near future. And, we're all from Canada here, and, we all live here, and it's the first place the device was approved in. So we really want to get, help as many Canadians see as we possibly can, and hopefully become the standard of care for treating dry AMD in Canada.
I love that. We have the opportunity in Canada right now as ODs, as healthcare providers, to kind of be the gold standard for the world in this specific thing, right? We have this. We can be proud that this came from Canada, and we in Canada are the ones who are treating it. Other countries and other practitioners will look at us as, with envy to kind of be able to do what we're doing, right?
Yep.
So I think that's an opportunity that we have to be able to take advantage of that. I think it's a great idea. So what other final important things do we want to share with the audience before we wrap up?
It's interesting. Maya Angelou said, do the best you can, but when you know better, do better. And that really sticks with me because for me, I know I can offer my patients something better now. And it's really incumbent on ODs to educate themselves on how they can best manage their AMD patients. What is the best thing you can do to prevent your patient from going blind? It's a really big calling. It kind of pulls at my heartstrings when I even say that. It just gives me chills because I know it's a responsibility to do the best I can for my patient. And hopefully we're educating each other as colleagues. This is something new. This is something different. Instead of hoping that they don't lose their vision, we actually can improve vision. We need to be able to, if you're not going to bring this in, you need to find clinics around you that are going to do it and refer those to your
100%.
colleagues for treatment. So that's what I say. It's like, hey, it's kind of your ethical responsibility to present all the options to your patients and inform them. Hopefully, companies like MacuMira and our platform at MyRetina can help educate the community so that we can share best practices. But that's what I'd say. It's like, hey, this is pretty awesome, and we need to get everybody at least knowing about it.
Absolutely.
Do you have any good typical patient stories that you can share with us where you've treated a patient and it's greatly improved their quality of life, or any tidbits from any patients you've treated?
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty about, what we do sometimes when we have patients that you make a huge difference in their life.
Yeah.
I have a patient case, and she went from 2150 to 2080 in one eye, and 2100 to 2050.
Wow.
So pretty remarkable vision. She goes, I can see my face now. And she goes, she cried with one of our doctors.
That's
they both
amazing.
cried after she came in.
Amazing.
They look, and the scans look better. So, I mean, it's incredible, right? When you can make differences like that. I think we'll know more as we get this out there, as more cases are shared amongst the practitioners.
Absolutely.
And that it's the early adopters like me that maybe started, but it's the community at large that's going to make this gold standard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Love that.
Yeah, and maybe just a final comment on just the fulfillment in helping a human being in front of you. So I was in a clinic in Calgary 2 weeks ago. I was there for the patient's first treatment and for their fourth treatment. And this gentleman, we talked to him and said, okay, what are you noticing? So did the acuities. Acuities went from 2080 to 2050 in his left eye, 2050 to 2025 in his right eye. So saved his driver's license.
Yeah.
Wow. And then I asked him, on a day-to-day basis, like, what are you doing? What are you noticing? What are you enjoying? He said he watched the Australian Formula One race, and he's like, I could see the leaderboard. I could see the drivers' names.
Amazing.
And the cool thing was that his wife was there with him in the treatment room, sitting in a chair, just observing. So I got a chance to talk to her as well. And she said on one of our first dates in 1964, they're Dutch. So they went to the Formula One race in the Netherlands. That was one of the first dates. And I said, like, it's 60 years later now, and you're watching this on TV. Like, it was an amazing full circle moment.
That's very cool.
And when I came home at the end of and the doctors were on cloud nine. Like, the two doctors that were there were, I was like, they were so happy and fulfilled. When I came home at the end of the day, my wife looked at me. She's like, what happened today? And I'm like, it was an amazing day. Like, I saw my dad in the chair through this gentleman, through this patient, right?
That's
and I
amazing.
saw the staff. I saw the doctors. We all had a hand in making this gentleman's life better.
Yeah.
And so there's a person that's waiting, like, in your clinic tomorrow that can be helped. So let's try help.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's powerful, man. Thank you. We were thinking about potentially ending the story with your dad, but we started, the interview we started, but that was another beautiful, powerful story that I think that's a great way to kind of sum up everything we just talked about. It was wonderful. I don't want to make light of that, but anybody who's watching Formula One these days does not need to see the leaderboard because it's always Max Verstappen at the top anyway,
Nice.
so it doesn't really matter. But anyways, but that's an incredible story, so thank you for sharing that. Any other final words you guys want to share before we wrap up? I feel like that was a great story.
We hope to have some webinars coming out,
Yeah.
to help educate the community. So look for that on myretina.ca. I think that's really important. It's free to join. If you're an optometrist out there, get on and educate yourself. That's what I'd say. It's on you now. Learn more.
Yep, beautiful.
And just with MacuMira, you can go to our website, MacuMira.com. If you can see the information behind us, we're easy to find online, and we're looking to expand throughout Canada and hopefully have lots of devices in every province and help optometrists help their patients see better that have dry AMD.
Beautiful. All right, people. MacuMira.com, MacuMira.com. Make sure you check it out. If you're listening, once again, go to YouTube and watch this so you can see what the device looks like, see how it works, see Ravi sitting there with his eyes closed for 5 minutes giving us his spiel. It was pretty impressive. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening to the 2020 podcast, Canada's #1 optometry podcast. We'll see you guys in the next episode.